Welcome to Two Therapists Talking. The hope for this podcast is to talk about important issues related to couples and individuals who are struggling in their lives with many different issues. I'm David Thompson, a marriage and family therapist.
And I'm Sherie Christensen, marriage and family therapist. Please join us as we explore these issues together, and we hope you will learn and be enlightened along the way. Come find us at twotherapisttalking.com. If you like what you're hearing, please get on and rate us and subscribe to the podcast.
Hi, and welcome back to Two Therapists Talking. I'm David.
And I'm Sherie.
And I'm excited today because we covered this topic a long time ago.
Yes.
Over a year ago. I'm trying to think now. Over 2 years ago.
Uh-huh.
And we did not do it justice, I don't think, but that's fair because we were just starting and kind of getting the hang of all this. But I use this concept so much, and I really think of all the things I've ever done, if clients were to be very consistent about anything, this list is something that is super beneficial, but also underutilized. So
right. When we're talking about steps to recovery.
Right.
For
steps to recovery.
And betrayed partners. Yep.
So the addict will have steps to recovery, and the betrayed partner will have steps to recovery. Mm-hmm. And they're going to look different, but have a lot of overlap. But these concepts are really, really good if we take them seriously and follow them. And I've seen this time and time again. And couples who follow it are doing much better than couples who don't. Even if they have the handout, obviously you're going to do what you're going to do. But if you follow it, I can notice a big difference. Easily.
You're going to make a lot of progress.
Yes.
And you're going to make progress individually. And you're going to make progress in your relationship with your partner.
Yes.
If the two of you are doing these things.
Guaranteed.
Yep.
Hold me to it. Hold me to it. Prove me.
It's true, though. Yeah. Couples that follow through with each of these things do really well and are able to move forward from the betrayals, from the addictions, are going to be able to move forward as a couple and have a stronger relationship.
Disclaimer, though, I'm going to tell you right now, a lot of the stuff you hear you won't want to do. So let me the role of therapy, and this is kind of what we are as therapists, doing therapy on a podcast, more or less. Right?
Yes.
The role of therapy is not to tell you what you want to hear or give you just what you want to receive. Right. The role of therapy is to challenge whatever faulty beliefs, perspectives, patterns, habits, systems are not working very well for you or are less effective. And that seems like, well, yeah, of course, right?
Until somebody actually does it to you.
Right. It's a weird concept, but just understand a lot of this is meant to sort of be getting you outside of the patterns that you've been in.
Yeah.
And so expect challenge, expect discomfort. In fact, I almost think that's a sign that you're getting good help if what you're receiving is going to push you. So keep that in mind, please.
Yes. Yes. You want to have a good, solid foundation of getting pushed and challenged. In addition to, I think a lot of people want to come into therapy and feel validated and feel like a therapist is on their side. Yeah. There's some of that. And if you're not being challenged, then you can go get a best friend instead. And then you don't have to pay them.
Yeah.
Right.
Friends are free. Not that empathy and validation are a part of therapy, but what I always say is it's not the goal of therapy. Empathy and validation is not the goal.
I feel like it's the baseline. To have that kind of that's the, where you start from.
It's a good starting point.
Yes. And then let's get into how you can be challenged to shift your thinking patterns, your behaviors, to help you be a better version of yourself. Yep. So now that we're pontificating about what therapy is,
And
Let's.
and I have heard some feedback from clients, which I appreciate. I won't mention names, but that sometimes we take too long to get to the subject.
Yes.
That's my fault, by the way, because I want these disclaimers to be so soft and gentle and cover all the bases, and nobody's possibly going to be
I do that
offended or
too.
think any.
That,
So yeah, you know, in the spirit of getting right to what we're talking about, we should
we've
get
spent
in
all this
there.
time.
Yeah.
Yes. So we're really excited. We're really excited to do
I am.
this
I am excited.
an improved version of the Steps to Recovery, back from like one of the very first episodes, some of the first episodes
Yep.
that we did. So we're going to get into these new improved versions and give you a little bit more information on things that are going to help, foundational steps in recovery that will help you move forward.
Yep. So we're going to start like we did. Well, no, last time we did start with the betrayed partner and then went to the
Ooh, we're going to switch it
addict
up.
partner. We're going to start with the addicted or offending partner because not everyone who acts out is an addict.
Right.
And honestly, I struggle to know what is the perfect word to describe the other side. Betrayal, you know, the betrayed partner is easy to identify usually, right? And so sometimes
Offending partner, addicted
offending,
partner.
addicted, but
Yeah. Betrayer.
betrayer, yep.
There you
All
go.
good words. We want to hear about ourselves, right? So number one for the offending or addicted partner, this won't come as any surprise.
Number one. Always number one.
Always
Yes.
number one, and you're already saying this,
Honesty.
honesty.
Yep.
What that means is there has to be an absolute commitment to complete honesty no matter the consequences. So you've heard
Yes.
this idea that you have to be ready to leave her before you lie to her. Like that's the priority.
Right.
Nothing's going to get in the way, even possibly her leaving you, of being honest with her.
Right.
Not easy, obviously. It's painful when you recognize that your attitudes, your behaviors do not line up with who you think you are or how you think you've been showing up, which is pretty sobering for sure.
Yeah.
Which is why we actually start in therapy with self-worth, increasing your sense of self-worth, just like we did when we started this podcast. Very first episode is understanding your worth.
Right.
So that's where we want to start. Honesty. Now, that means you answer your spouse's questions and often prepare for a disclosure process that will take you through your history and eliminate secrets.
Yeah.
And so it doesn't necessarily mean all the nitty-gritty details. If you start into therapy
Yes.
and there's lots of what about this, it's okay to say, let's put that on hold until we do this process. Mm-hmm. But obviously that can be hard to hear if it's already felt like a long time of not getting the truth.
Right. But also I think too, just being able to say, because we talk in therapy and we help the couple to discover and to understand what types of details are helpful details
Right.
and what types of details are not helpful. And so if you don't understand that as a couple yet, that is a good time to also say, hey, I am fully willing to share those details with you. I'm not quite sure if that's one of those things that we should be talking about or details that are helpful or not. I'm fully willing to talk to you about those if our therapist says that that's okay.
Right.
Because it does take a little while, I think, to
Yeah.
figure out for the spouse and also for the addict or the betrayer to understand, for both of them to understand. And sometimes we have clients that will overshare in the
Right.
spirit of trying to be fully honest.
And under threat of divorce often, which is fair enough. You better tell me or that's it. And it's like, okay, here it is.
But some of the details aren't
Right.
totally needed and are now going to end up
Yep.
being a lot more triggering. And there's going to have to be a lot more work done in the healing process because now I can't drive by this one place, you know, those types of things. On the other hand, sometimes it is the betrayer or the betrayed partner that is pushing for all the extra tiny little details. What are you wearing? Those kinds of that. that is not necessary and not helpful.
Right.
So there's a learning curve, I think, on both sides as you're going through this process, but a willingness to disclose those things. So if you get into a stuck spot where you're not sure, just having that willingness, I'm totally willing to answer any of these questions. Let's talk to the therapist about if this is something that should come out, that I should write in my disclosure, if this is something that is a detail that isn't helpful, or if this is something that yes, just go ahead and share that now.
Yeah. So number one clearly seems obvious for sure. Honesty.
Yes.
Honesty.
And it also includes, which is sometimes the hardest part, I think, being honest with yourself.
Right.
Right? About your attitudes, your behaviors, and the fact that maybe you're not actually showing up the way that you have been portraying yourself.
Right.
Or thinking that you are.
Yep.
So that's number one. Number two is empathy.
Empathy.
And this can be tricky, I think, sometimes.
Well, it's number two on the priority list, I would say, but not because you know how to do it.
Right.
It's in importance. So
yes.
It doesn't mean that you are going to know how to do this, or that
it's going to be comfortable.
You jump right into trying to do it, not knowing how to do it.
Right.
Just be thinking about it and start the journey, the process towards really learning what it is.
Right. Because this is going to be a huge piece in rebuilding trust, in healing, helping your partner to be able to heal. It's often something that can be stunted in the process. For example, if you have had an addiction for for decades, sometimes that empathy piece can be a little bit stunted. Mm-hmm. You're not as good at it.
Right.
You don't quite understand how to show up that way, maybe even for yourself, and have empathy for yourself, just depending on how all of that played out. So being able to listen to your partner, to seek to understand what they're going through, to be nurturing in how you're, and validating in how you're showing up in conversations with them. Being able to use not just listening to them, but then follow up with actions, following up with behaviors.
Right.
And not just trying to sit and listen to them and then fix their problems or avoid the emotions that they're experiencing, but being able to sit with them in that space.
Right.
And if this is something you are like, I have no idea what this is or how to do this.
Welcome.
Yes. And also look for things from Brene Brown, mm-hmm. right? That is what she does and studies. And there's about 1 million things out there on all of the research that she has done and discussions of how to show up in empathetic ways.
And even go just through the titles of all the podcast episodes on our podcast, because a lot of them have to do with empathy and communication. A lot. So
yes.
A close second to honesty, empathy.
Empathy, for sure.
Well, here is number 3. And just to give you some idea, we're covering 12 steps.
Right.
For both, not all in this podcast episode, but just so you have an idea. Number 3 for the offending or addicted partner is sobriety.
Yes.
So sobriety, believe it or not, very important, less important than honesty, less
it's
important
so
than
true.
Empathy.
It's so true. But yeah, a lot of people think that that's got to be the sobriety is the number one thing, and it's not.
No. I mean, if we're talking addiction, which, by the way, we'll get to in time, understanding addiction.
Yeah.
It doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way any easier than if you had depression or anxiety or an eating disorder or anything, and it was like, okay, you just need to stop doing that. Okay,
right.
Well, I'm gonna try. I like that idea too.
Yes.
I want to stop. Let's just stop.
Let's figure out how do we do this thing. So it takes a little while usually.
Yeah.
To be able to become completely sober. Obviously, if you are engaging with other people, that has to stop right away.
Right.
So any type of hooking up physically or any type of communication with
No
other
more
people.
app use. No more reaching out. Right.
Yeah, that has to be right away. But with porn, masturbation, PMO, that stuff is a working over time to get better at and to understand what's involved
Right.
in the processes.
Yep. So the goal is to also have sobriety in those areas. Don't
For sure.
misunderstand.
Yeah,
right?
we're not saying, hey, you're totally fine.
Sometimes I'll hear like, well, yeah, but no, that's not okay. You're saying it's okay.
No.
I'm not meaning to say it's okay. But what I'll usually say, and you've heard this from me before, if there's honesty and we're making progress, we're doing well.
Yes.
It's kind of hard to say absolutely zero tolerance on any porn, any moving forward, they better do it. That's tough. Not very reasonable or realistic. But that is the goal. So rest assured that's what we're after.
Right. As part of that, you need to create and then work on adjusting as you grow your bottom lines and to have consequences around those.
Yep. Number 4.
Is understanding addiction. Yay!
Oh boy. Okay. This is important.
If it's present,
if
right?
it's present.
Because again, sometimes you might not actually have an addiction. If, for example, if you have had one affair and that's it, there's nothing else going on, then okay, addiction may not be a thing
Right.
for you. You might want to get into a lot of literature around affairs and what might be showing up for you there. But understanding addiction, if addiction is present, or even if compulsion, if it's a compulsive behavior, long-term compulsive behavior that may not be a full addiction, you're going to basically be doing the same things. So just understanding what addiction is going to be helpful for you.
Right.
As well. So you want to be able to really see your behavior clearly. What is this? What is it not?
Right. So addiction is a disease. That's significant, and it needs understood so that you don't judge either yourself or your partner or the situation wrongly and have unrealistic expectations. So
Right.
it's not just a moral failing, a lack of love. You don't love me. You never loved me. You're definitely going to need some help to see it correctly.
Right.
That's the idea behind if there's addiction and it's present.
Right. So as an addict or as someone who is struggling with pornography, this doesn't mean that you're a horrible human. It doesn't mean that you have moral failings. It doesn't mean that you're just not strong enough or
Right.
all of those things. And it doesn't mean that you just clearly don't love your partner enough. That's
Right.
not what this is.
Yep.
So really learning about and understanding what addiction is really important.
So that's number 4, understanding addiction. Number 5, support. I have so many
Yes.
clients. I say, well, who do you talk to? Who do you share with? And it's like, no one.
No one.
Like, how in the world going through something this heavy where
Right.
there's so much shame and you need love and acceptance, you've
Yes.
got to have support. And quick note about support. This is family and friends that know what you're going through and support you, which means listening for understanding and not telling you what you should do. Sometimes you
Right.
have to be careful with the support because they love you, whoever you're sharing this with, and it's very easy to say, well, you know what you should do.
Right.
You should leave them. They are not worth it. You deserve more. And it's not that ultimately maybe the relationship won't work out, but that's not what you need to hear in the beginning when you're trying to figure things out.
Right.
And so sometimes we have to say, hey, you don't have
Or
to give me
someone to be
advice or
shaming
tell me what to
you.
do. Yeah.
Like, oh my goodness, you're a piece of whatever that you're not.
Yep.
Just suck it up and don't look at porn anymore and everything will be fine. That's not going to be helpful.
Right.
You need someone who can understand you, who can demonstrate empathy and validate you. and not tell you what to do.
Very important.
Yeah.
And
So in addition to your family and friends, people in that group, you also should join and consistently attend a group and get a sponsor.
yep. It definitely helps to attend a group, see other people that you come to like and love, and they have issues, but you see them for more than their issues, and you
Right.
can begin to believe that maybe you too can be more than what you've done, which is kind of an important concept. So
Yes.
support.
And that's really good, I think, too, for being able to show up and see other people are going through similar things as you, and they can
Yeah.
understand. Right? There's a level of connection that happens when we are able to speak with people who also get it because they've been there.
Yep. So that's all we're going to cover for this episode. We have a lot to cover, so please tune in for the rest of the steps for the offending or addicted partner, steps to recovery.
We'll see you then. Thank you for listening to Two Therapists Talking. We look forward to sharing more conversations with you. Connect with us at twotherapisttalking.com or email podcast@twotherapisttalking.com. If you like what you're hearing, please get on and rate us and subscribe to the podcast.